What up, though? I just did my first press conference about the Detroit firefighters drunk driving and tearing up city vehicles. And let me tell you something. That bullshit was more like a school assembly than it was a press conference. First, they came out and basically said, we already knew, but now that you know, we gonna act like we care and do something about it.
Because we have had an issue arise publicly in the last week that is going to be addressed with the utmost urgency and seriousness.
Then they basically said, even though we already knew, we really just learning about this like you are.
But in the last week, I have learned more about alcoholism in firehouses across the country than I knew existed.
And just like anybody that know they to blame, the first thing they do is say, we don't want to blame nobody.
We're not here to focus on who's to blame. We're focusing on how we're going to solve it.
What the fuck? I thought that's what we was here for, to find out who's to blame for the problem. But of course, they know common sense thinking people is gonna say that, so they had to find a good old reliable fall guy. And just like everything else been happening in the last year, higher crime rate, bogus demolition, and anything else that's done went wrong with City Works, it was going wrong well before it showed up on the scene. Who did they blame? Good old COVID.
What made it worse, without a doubt, was the impact of COVID.
We are immediately going to resume practices that had been relaxed during COVID.
As the chaotic and frightening COVID-19 virus has spread invisibly throughout our city.
Seeing as I had never done a press conference before, I thought this shit would go like it do in the movies. They give us some information, and I would get to raise my hand at the question point and ask some questions.
Thank you.
But that ain't what they did. What they did, because they didn't want nobody to ask them no serious questions, was they handpicked a couple people to ask some softball-ass questions. So Mayor Doodoo, since I didn't get to ask no real questions that the average man with common sense would have asked after hearing all this bullshit, I'm gonna pose 3 questions to you, and you can feel free to answer me at any time. Question number 1. You say the recent rise in drunk driving accidents and drinking amongst the fire department and other departments with tearing up city vehicles all started and went up because of COVID. When the reality is, we've been knew this was going on since 2017. So how did you just find out? Question number 2. How many more times do you think the citizens of Detroit is going to hear COVID as an excuse for everything? High crime rates, bogus demolition deals, city services not being properly intact. I mean, damn, how much more COVID blame can we accept for shit that was already fucked up well before COVID came around? And my third and final question, Mayor Doodoo, is you gonna resign? Because I think the people of Detroit is getting tired of shoveling your shit. This your boy, comedian Detroit Red. You know how I do it. Deuces.